You notice it in small moments. The delayed replies, the short answers, the way attention fades without explanation, and the confusing part is, you're not doing anything obviously wrong. You're trying. You're being nice. You're showing interest. So why does it feel like you're invisible? Problem, deep dive. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, there's engagement, maybe even curiosity. Then slowly, something shifts. Conversations feel one-sided. You start carrying the interaction. You think more, say more, try harder. And the more you try, the less they respond. So you adjust. You become more polite, more agreeable, more available. You laugh a little louder. You reply a little faster. You overthink every message before sending it. But something strange happens. Instead of bringing people closer, it creates distance. And internally, it starts to change how you see yourself. You begin asking questions like, am I boring? Am I not enough? Why does this always happen to me? It's not just about being ignored. It becomes an identity question. Because when attention disappears without explanation, your brain tries to fill the gap with self-doubt. But here's the part most people miss. This pattern is not random, and it's not just about confidence or looks. There's something deeper happening underneath the surface, something your brain is doing that you're not aware of yet. You're not being ignored because you're worthless. And you're not bad at relationships. What you're experiencing is a pattern, a behavioral signal your brain learned over time. In psychology, this is often tied to attachment patterns and social signaling behavior. Your mind is trying to protect you, but in doing so, it might be sending the wrong message. Because human attraction, especially in early interactions, is not just about what you say. It's about what your behavior communicates beneath the surface. And sometimes, without realizing it, you communicate something that pushes people away. Not intentionally, but consistently. Psychological mechanism. Your brain is built to seek connection, but it's also built to avoid rejection. And when these two systems conflict, you get a very specific behavior pattern. Let's break it down. There's a concept in psychology called reward uncertainty. Your brain values things more when they are not guaranteed. Think of it like this. A slot machine keeps people hooked not because it always rewards them, but because it sometimes does. Unpredictability creates emotional engagement. Now apply this to human interaction. When someone's attention feels uncertain, your brain becomes more focused on them. But when attention is too available, your brain relaxes. Interest drops. Not because the person is bad, but because there's no tension, no curiosity, no emotional pull. Now here's where it gets personal. If you tend to reply instantly, always agree, always initiate, always show availability, you remove that uncertainty. Your behavior becomes predictable, safe, stable, but also less stimulating. There's another layer. Your brain also reads social value signals. Without words, people subconsciously ask, does this person have options? Do others value them? Are they choosing me or needing me? If your behavior feels like need, it activates a different response, not attraction, but pressure. And the human brain naturally moves away from pressure, even if it's subtle, even if it's unintentional. So what you experience as being ignored is often a response to how your behavior is being interpreted, not who you are, but what you signal. Practical framework. Now, instead of trying to be better, you need to adjust what your behavior communicates. Here are 5 principles grounded in psychology. 1. Reduce Immediate availability. What to do? Don't respond instantly every time. Create natural gaps in interaction. Why it works. This reintroduces reward uncertainty, which increases engagement in the brain's dopamine system. Example. Instead of replying in 30 seconds every time, wait 15-30 minutes occasionally. Not as a game, but as a shift toward balance. 2. Stop over, explaining yourself. What to do, say less. Avoid long justifications or excessive detail. Why it works. Over-explaining signals low perceived social power, which reduces attraction cues in social psychology. Example, instead of writing a paragraph to explain why you were busy, just say, "Had a busy day. What about you?" 3. Rebuild your attention. Focus. What to do. Stop making one person your primary emotional focus too early. Why it works. Your brain attaches quickly when attention is concentrated, creating perceived dependency, which others can sense. Example. If you're constantly checking your phone for one person's reply, redirect that energy into something else. Work, gym, friends. 4. Introduce emotional variability. What to do. Don't always be the same version of yourself. Why it works. The brain responds more strongly to emotional contrast than constant positivity. Example. Instead of always agreeing, playfully disagree sometimes. Instead of always being serious, be light. Instead of always being light, occasionally be thoughtful. 5. Shift from approval. Seeking to expression. What to do. Stop trying to be liked. Start expressing what you actually think. Why it works. Authenticity increases perceived confidence because it signals internal validation instead of external dependence. Example. Instead of saying what you think they want to hear, say what you genuinely think, even if it's slightly different. Think of this entire dynamic like a magnet. Attraction doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from polarity, space, tension, difference. If you push too much, you remove the space. If you try too hard, you remove the tension. And without those two things, there's nothing pulling the other person in. So the goal is not to become distant, and it's not to play games. It's to restore balance, to let interaction breathe, to allow curiosity to exist again. Because when everything is predictable, there's nothing left to discover. 7. Quiet, empowering. Close, being ignored feels personal. But most of the time, it's not about your worth. It's about your patterns. And patterns can change. Not by forcing yourself to be someone else, but by understanding what your behavior communicates. You don't need to become more impressive. You need to become more aware. Because the moment your behavior stops saying, "I need your attention," and starts saying, "I'm choosing this interaction," everything shifts. Not loudly, not instantly, but quietly and consistently. And that's where real change begins.